Hello, I'm back. Let's get back to the spooky, creepy pasta. Ooh.
Pretty sure this is going to be the last home healthcare video that I'll be making. I have to double check my book, but around that time, I was always writing things down whenever they happen, but I'll have to double check and let you know. So let's get into it.
I have to double
So
check
around
and
this
let you
time, I
know.
was packing a bag about 3 days, sometimes even 2 weeks, and I'll be going to these clients' houses. I was working for this home healthcare company. And so I packed the bag for the 24th, 25th, and 26th of December, and I was at this woman's house. Now, I had already been to her house months before. I had been there consistently for months, and nothing ever happened in her house.
Okay.
So here we are. This is a small house. We're up in the living room, and we're dancing. She likes to dance. And so we're up there dancing, having a ball. And I noticed a lot of new decoration. I'm like, oh, you've been decorating? She's like, yeah, the other girl, whenever she's on shift, she helps me decorate. I'm like, cool. The doorbell rings. I go to the doorbell. I said, go to the doorbell. I go to the door. I opened the door, and it was my coworker, the woman that she was just talking about. And she brought this chair. And I'm like, you brought a chair? She was like, yeah, it's adding to our decoration. This is something that we like doing together. I'm like, okay, cool. That was sweet. So she brings the chair in. When she brought the chair in, she set it all the way at the end of the hall, and it had this painting that was over it. So I'm like, okay, that's sweet. So
Oh,
we
okay.
continue our stuff. The lady leaves. We continue dancing, and then the woman wants to get in bed. So I put her in bed. Fast forward to after I put her in bed, I put the motion sensors down just in case she
Okay.
gets up. So the motion sensors started going. They just started going crazy. And I looked at the camera, and she's laying in bed. She's knocked out. So finally, I stand up, and when I stand up to go check and peek my head around the corner, there's this dark figure sitting in the chair that my coworker had just brought into the house. Can't make out if it's a man or a woman just yet, but it was
Oh,
a very dark figure, and I heard stomping, but it didn't sound like feet. And then I look over, and it has like this cane in its hand, just stomping it on the ground, on the floor. So finally, I get up, I run over to my duffel bag, and I get my Bible out, and I get to praying. And it's just sitting there looking at me like, and I said, so you just not gonna go? Like, you just.
no. Go ahead. Keep staring at him. Don't be afraid. Have faith. Have faith. I've had a demon look me in the face and laugh at me, and for years it bothered me, and I wondered why they looked right back at me and laughed at me instead of just being gone. But that's the thing, they laughed at me and then they left. They know how much disbelief you have just as much as you do. Actually, they know how little you believe better than you do. They know scripture as much as you do, if not more. So, once again, you gotta remember who's got authority there. They're gonna look at you like that when you're operating in any kind of mode where you think you don't have authority. And that's just the truth of it. And even then, they're still gonna laugh at you. They're still gonna try to hate you. They're still gonna try to knock you out of your power. That's just what they're gonna try to do because you're their enemy.
It's not gonna leave. So then once I started to get aggravated and I started to really be really forceful with the words from the Bible, that's when it stood up and it walked into the bathroom and then it walked back out. But when it walked back out the bathroom, it did this high jump in the air. Like, okay, what was that about? After it did that little high jump, that weird thing, it disappeared from in front of me. But I heard the motion sensor, so I walked over to the camera. And when I walked up to the camera, I see his face. Yes, it was a he in the camera, and he's pointing at my client. So of course I'm aggravated. I go back there and I flick the lights on. I didn't care if she was asleep. I was just worried because I know you ain't here for her. Not right now. Not right now.
Not right
So then
now.
fast forward, I played it off to the woman like, "Oh, do you have to use the bathroom? I'm so sorry that I flicked the light on like that." And so she's like, "Oh no, I'm okay." So she lays back down. Once I go back out to the living room, I get to praying. I get to like drawing crosses over all the doors, over all the windows. But next thing you know, I feel something walk behind me. And when I felt it, I turned around and he's right here in my face, like right here in my face. I almost dropped to the floor, y'all, but I couldn't do it because then he'd be thinking that he had one up on me. So that entire night, he would just randomly pop up in my face. He would randomly pop up on the sofa, or he would be sitting in that chair that my coworker brought. Now, this is the scariest part. The scariest part is the fact that right after he left up out of my client's room, I could hear her gasping for air like she needed me. And so I ran in there and I sat her up on the edge of the bed and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she said that she said, "I'm not ready to go yet. I'm not ready to go." Now, all this
What
time, she's
you
never
mean?
talked like this. And so I'm just like, "You ain't got to go yet if you don't want to." I think what made me more nervous about it is the fact that it was a dark figure that came to collect her. Um, at that point, I was just like, "Do you want to pray with me?" We had never prayed together before, but in that moment, she wanted to pray. So we prayed, right? So fast forward to while we're praying, he just sat down. Like, I wait. So I think that scared me too because
Why do I have that song? God, it's like a 1960s, 1970s song. Ooh, don't feel the reaper. No, 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 that's not it. Ooh, here comes the reaper. Anyway, anyway.
what has this woman done in her life that is so terrible to have a dark figure come to collect her and take her somewhere and not even a prayer can stop it, can stop her from going with him. Now, here's the even scarier part. I got a feeling to look outside. So I went ahead and I looked out the window. And when I looked out the window, there were two other dark figures standing on the sidewalk. That scared the crap out of me because I know y'all better just be here for her. So I hear knocking on the door. Of course, I'm not answering it because I just looked out the window. I saw y'all out there. I'm not opening the door. And so the woman, she starts getting hysterical and she is like really going crazy. I'd never seen her like this before. And so, do y'all know, like, probably not even 24 hours after I left, that woman passed away. She passed away. And in my head, I felt so bad, but in my head, I was thinking, like, "Oh my God, this family gonna think I'm the Grim Reaper."
No, but
I
you
just
might have
came
just
home
seen
from
it.
the house that I lived in when I first moved up to New England that was incredibly haunted. Went to drive
I sorry to tell you, I really think you might have just seen that sucker. Which, why are we fearing the Reaper?
in when I first moved up to New England that was incredibly haunted. Went to drop off flowers for Carrot, which was my cat that I moved up here with, and sadly he passed away in that house within like a month or two of me living here. I had texted the owner of the house, who I'm still friends with, asking if I could bring him flowers because last week was the 2 year anniversary of him passing, and she said, "Sure, of course. We're not there, but you're welcome to leave them on the porch." So I drive up there, I do that, and as I am backing out, I look up at the second floor window, which is the room that had a lot of activity when I lived there, and I see somebody standing in the window. There are no cars there. She told me that nobody would be home. That's why I left the flowers on the porch rather than going in and saying hi. But I am seeing a person standing in the window. Stuff like that was just common living there. Like, there was always weird shit happening. But as I was driving home, I realized that I didn't tell you guys a few of the creepiest things that happened while I was living in that house. For example, I had a neighbor who was a few years younger than me named Eric, and he lived in the closest cabin.
Okay, before we get into this guy, Eric, my first question is though, why are you returning to this house? Like, I understand the whole cat thing, maybe, but uh, why? Was this a childhood home? Is that because honestly, if I, depending on what it is, if I know there's certain energies there, I'm just not gonna stay there. But anyways,
To the house, which was like half a mile away. He knew that I was seeing things.
actually, food for thought. Tell me what you think of this in the comments. Does that mean that I'm actually still afraid? Like, is that another assumption of, oh, if these things are in this place, I have to leave? Because as believers, we're the ones who should be able to cast them out and tell them to leave, right? So why do we not do that? Once again, I think that shows even I, as a person who's trying to make YouTube videos proclaiming Christ, I still have my own struggle in faith and trust. right? Anyways, let's get into Eric.
And experiencing things in the house, but he was a hardcore skeptic, and I'm sure he still is. He never seemed scared. He would always just try to come up with logical explanations, which I appreciated because I was living there alone, and sometimes it would get pretty scary. One night we're in the living room watching a movie, and he gets up to leave, and we both hear the voice of a little girl say something in the kitchen, which is like right next to the living room. With
I want a
we both look at
cookie.
each other and look at the kitchen because we're like, what the fuck was that? And like, you couldn't make out what she was saying, but it was definitely a very high-pitched little voice. He turns to me and he's like, it had to have been a mouse. It couldn't have been anything else. It was just a mouse. I'm like, okay. So I walk him to the front door to see him out. When you walk in the front door, there's a mudroom where you can take your boots and your jacket and all that off. And then directly in front of you is the second living room. And then to the left of that are the stairs that go up to the second floor. And then hard left, there's an office, which is the room that Carrot died in. As he's going to leave, his back is to the front door. He gives me a hug. And as he's doing that, I hear him gasp in my ear and pull away. And I look at him and tears are welling up in his eyes as he's looking up at the second floor landing up the stairs. I'm like, what is wrong? What just happened? Are you okay? And he is not breaking eye contact with the top landing of the stairs. Like, he will not look at me. He's just looking up there, and he's like, I swear to God, I just saw you moving up on the second landing. And I'm like, that's not possible. Like, what exactly did you see? And he's like, I saw you. It was your outline, but it was all black. Like, there was no color. I couldn't see hair color. It was just like your shadow moved from one side of the landing to the other. And at this point, tears are coming down his face. And again, this man is a skeptic. He doesn't believe in the paranormal. And he's like, I don't know what I just saw, but I need to leave. I'm like, so you're gonna leave me with something that looks like me in the house? Cool, thank you. And he's like, yeah, I have to go, bye. That night, I'm lying in bed. My dog is in bed with me, obviously, because he always is.
You killed the spider, babe! You get rid of the ghost, babe! Ah!
And I'm drifting off to sleep, and I hear something tapping on the dresser in my bedroom, which is at like the foot of the bed, kind of a few feet away. Slowly crack my eyes open and look, and I see the outline of somebody standing against the dresser, slowly drumming their fingers like they're impatiently waiting for something.
What do you think of that, Casper?
All the way open, and they're gone. When I say stuff like this was common, it was like a weekly event. The first few months in that house, right after Carrot had passed away, my mom came up to spend Thanksgiving with me. I put her in my bedroom, and I went into the guest bedroom, which if you've seen the videos, it's a yellow bedroom with like weird purple splotches all over it. It looks very creepy. It is a very creepy room. It has a crawl space. I didn't want to put her in there. So she sleeps in my room.
You need to paint it.
Nicer and more comfortable. And the next morning she's like, why did you keep getting up in the middle of the night? And I'm like, I didn't. What are you talking about? And she was like, I was hearing footsteps on the stairs and outside of the bedroom like all night. Yeah, it happens. I wasn't up though. It wasn't me. The next night she comes into the room that I'm sleeping in as I'm drifting off, and she's like, I'm hearing footsteps again. Unfortunately, you're just gonna have to get used to it because it happens. You hear them all the time in this house. The final night she was visiting me, we were walking my dog, and there was like the big main house and then a barn, which wasn't used for anything. There were no animals or anything. The barn had a very creepy vibe, more so than the house even. Like when I would be in the barn getting firewood, doors would close on their own, objects would fall on their own. If I asked nicely for whoever was doing that to please stop, they usually would. So my mom and I are walking Rocky, facing the barn, heading that way. We both, at the same time, see a shadow standing in one of the windows of the barn and then duck down. And that was its signature move. I would see something and then it would duck, like it wanted me to come look for it, which I never did. So yeah, that house, the property, the whole thing, it was absolutely wild. Oh, and if you're a newer follower and you don't already know this story, the property that that house is on was originally owned by the Mack family, which is the maternal side of Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism. His mother's family lived there for generations. There were roads all over the town named after her family.
Wow.
I don't know if it's them haunting that house or what it is, but something is going on there.
That's an interesting point.
Is really not a real place. Somebody from South Africa submitted a story to me telling me that people don't only get.
That's an interesting point. Very interesting point. There's a lot connected to the occult that goes into Mormonism. Look it up. Let me know if you want me to go down that whole TikTok rabbit hole. It might take a minute because I don't even know if I could find a lot of that like condensed. But yeah, let me know if you're interested in looking at it. I would definitely love to make a video on that.
Kidnapped by mermaid spirits. That there are other types of spirits in the water that kidnap.
Okay, wait. Wow, back it up! What are you talking about?
Really not a real place. Somebody from South Africa.
What do you mean?
Them haunting that house or what it is, but
Forget it. I'm gonna turn it back down there. I'll play it later.
South Africa is really not a real place. Somebody from South Africa submitted a story to me telling me that people don't only get kidnapped by mermaid spirits, that there are other types of spirits in the water that kidnap people, i.e.
Okay, but wait. How does it make South Africa not a real place?
snake spirits. I am back with another spooky story. Now this story is called The Snake Husband. So in parts of Africa, people whisper about the Mami Wata spirits, water beings who can appear human but often take form of a snake. And they say if one of them falls in love with you, there is no escape. So a young woman, we're gonna call her Amara. Amara lived near a forest river. Every evening she fetched water alone. Although the elders warned her, never answer if you hear your name called by the river. So one night, Amara was just fetching her water, minding her business. Suddenly she heard it, and it was like a soft, deep, and a very sweet voice called her Amara. She turned, but no one was there. She turned back and she notices that the waves in the water was just a bit strange. So that night, she doesn't think anything of it. She goes about her business, gets her water, goes home, and returns the following day. Now, the next day, when she returned to the same spot, mind you, this time, a tall, handsome man stood at the riverbank, dressed in white. The man was described to have really long eyelashes, and his eyes seemed like they had a glimmer in them. And he also had an interesting smile. However, the man was alluring and handsome. He was beautiful, and it seemed like he had his eyes set on Amara. The second Amara saw this dude, she was enamored. He approached her to talk to her, and surprise, within them
I don't know what's ringing through my head right now is the most beautiful things, even of nature and the natural order. There is still no guarantee that what they say and what they do comes from God. There is no messenger from God. There is no succession to God. There's no predecessor but Christ. He is like, everyone gets into spirituality, everybody gets into the occult, and all these different forms of religion and philosophy, theology, right? What are we all looking for? We're all looking for a more direct connection, a more direct channel to the divine, to the infinite. You're not going to find that anywhere but Christ. You can test it out, you can try it. I would caution you to be careful with what you play with, because you're gonna find out not everything is from and of God. I found that out. That's why I'm here. That's truly and honestly tried it out. Put on the different clothes. Christ is what I needed. Christ was the answer to everything. Anyways, let's get back to it. I'm losing the story.
To know each other, it seems like this man is Amara's dream man, the husband that she had been so patiently waiting for this whole time. Like even his voice was soft.
There you go. There's the other thing. You know, in the Bible, Satan in the desert promises Christ the world. So these things where, like in manifestation, for instance, they tell you that you would be able to just speak into existence everything you ever wanted. It'll be too good to be true. These things are the promise of Christ. If you're willing to believe the too good to be true lies of something like this, why is it so insane to believe the promises and the proofs of Christ when they're backed up better than just a spooky entity that you met in the mist? Why is that? Why is the snake husband more believable than someone with actual historical proof of who he is? Anyways, Let's go.
While
I'm
they were
done.
talking by the water, he offered her
I'm done.
gifts, protection, and even love. Amara left, her chest tight. She just met the man of her dreams. How could she say no? So the person who submitted the story was Amara's sister. So she's telling it from her POV. Well, Amara started seeing this guy. They started going out to date, and Amara seemed like she was falling head over heels. 2 months into the relationship, Amara really started to want to meet the guy's parents, go to his house. However, he was always hesitant. Every time they would see each other, he would come pick her up, or they would just hang out in Amara's house. Well, 2 months into them dating, people noticed Amara changing. Her skin grew unusually smooth and cold. Her pupils became narrow like slits. At night, the weirdest thing, her family heard hissing coming from her room. And when they entered, the hissing was gone. Her skin started to shed like that of an actual snake. At this point, Amara's mother is having nightmares that there's a snake in her house. The next thing we know, the two kept dating and they became inseparable. Even though Amara looked like she was getting worser and worser. So Amara meets this beautiful man by the water and they become inseparable. Now Amara's sister, upon meeting him, had her own reservation. She said, and I kid you not, the man's eyes damn near glowed. Even at nighttime, his eyes glimmered. He just seemed like something else. So Amara's sister would try to warn her about him, but to Amara it kind of came off like the sister was being a hater considering the sister was still single. At that point, the two sisters get into argument and Amara's sister decided that she will no longer speak on that relationship. The beautiful man winds up proposing to Amara. So Amara comes home and lets her family know that she's getting married. Everybody else seemed to be happy for Amara and they asked Amara to meet her fiance's family. The only thing is, though, Amara herself has never met that man's family. So now there's a lot of pressure on Amara to make this meeting happen. So she goes to her man and starts putting pressure on him. One day, I guess he finally caved and he was like, okay, I will introduce you to my family. He basically told her that she had already accepted his proposal, which means that she's accepting of him, and that maybe it is the right time that she meets the family. And Amara's thinking maybe this guy is just really formal. So I guess when he figured that Amara was finally ready to meet the fam, he took Amara to the water, and Amara's probably wondering what is she doing here back at the same spot that they met. Well, this man took Amara to the water, inside of the water. Since Amara's sister was the one who submitted the story, at that moment she had no idea what had happened. Her sister was gone for 3 weeks. And everybody back on Earth is worried sick about this girl. Her sister thought that her boyfriend did something to her, might have unalived her. And considering people went around looking for the boyfriend too, well, the fiance, and no one could find either of them. People are thinking they eloped, people are thinking that he unalived her. It's so many
Girl, no.
When Amara comes back to find out what they found out, shocking to say the least. Well, Amara comes back
Really?
to Earth 3 weeks later soaked. Her sister saw her walking in the yard, looking dazed and confused. She was soaking wet and she looked like a zombie. And the thing about her that sent chills down her sister's back was the fact that her sister barely recognized her at first. That's how different she looked after those 3 weeks. Her hair's texture was different.
I don't know.
Her hair was straight and kind of straight.
Get the fuck off the bed, bitch! Go! 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 Get the fucking money, bitch!
You get that shit?
That she wasn't a product of God. And the crazy thing about it too, when she came back, everyone had all these questions. Where did you go? What happened to you? Why do you look like this? Amara was mute. She could not speak. They would ask her about her fiance for 3 months. Amara didn't mutter a word. During those 3 months, she would constantly go missing and come back in the same state. People started keeping watch to make sure that she stays in her bedroom at night. Invited the neighborhood's priests and pastors to come and pray over this girl because nobody knew what was going on. And the entire neighborhood started coming together to pray for Amara. And after 9 months, her skin started darkening up. She went completely bald. And slowly but surely, she started looking normal again. After 9 months, she started to speak. And when she spoke again, she talked about what she saw below and how it horrified her and shook her to her core. After the 9 months, Amara decided to give up her life to Jesus Christ because what she had saw was enough to convince her that God was real.
There you go.